Hello. It's 4:20. Let's get high. Okay. So we are in the week of Yesod. Built on the word sod. Yesod means actually foundation, and built on the word sod, which means secret. And as I explained many times, the human body is built in three triangles. The triangle of the head, Chokhmah, Bina, V'dat, they call it wisdom, understanding, and knowing. And the right arm is Chesed, kindness, and the left arm is Gevurah, severity or strength. And the torso is Tiferet, beauty and truth. And the right and left legs are Netzach and Hod, victory and retreat. And then the final point of the final triangle is Yesod, where everything focuses into sexuality. And the thing with sexuality, which is different from everything else, is that all the other powers we have, the power to feel and the power to think, that they are all, for us, these are individual powers that happen inside of us. But sexuality is the first power that's really for someone else, because you can't have sex with yourself. Which brings us to what I actually wanted to talk about today, which is masturbation. Because one might think that is sex with yourself. Well, first of all, female masturbation is nothing. Women can do whatever they want. They're completely free to do it by themselves or with someone else. No problem. This is not even considered sexual. Male masturbation is a problem. And the problem with male masturbation is, and see, this is, it kind of dovetails in what I was talking yesterday, and I meant to mention it, but, like even a woman could have could construct herself like a man, but the thing that science can't do is connect the penis to the third eye, because that's where the sperm is made, and women are not made with sperm, are not made with the vehicle to make sperm, and where the man can make sperm at the moment, we make it through our eyes. That's why men are always looking at women, and that's why women are always making themselves to be beautiful, because they want men to look at them. Because this is a natural thing that we want, that there should be, this energy in the world. And we want to be able to be together, man and woman, either just hanging out, having a good time, or work. And to have that tension between man and woman, but be able to control it. That's the whole thing about controlling it, because you can't tell a woman. Actually, some places do. They want the women, to be very covered, so it doesn't provoke the men. But that's not the woman's fault, my teacher, Rav Abba. So he was teaching us, as I was first learning Torah 50 years ago. So we had a little cadre of people, all us little misfits. and he was teaching us how the women, when they went out of Mitzrayim, the men sang Az Yoshir, and the women also sang. So someone asked, according to Jewish law, men are not allowed to hear women sing. So his answer was, so that's their problem. Women have a right to sing. If the men are flipped out by it, let them go somewhere else. You can't tell the women to go somewhere else. It's a spontaneous thing. They're singing. They have a right to sing. Because what man is supposed to do, the job of man is to control himself, and we see that all of the problems really, I don't know all the problems, but the majority of problems between man and woman have to do with man not being able to control himself. He wants a woman so bad that he'll take her, he'll rape her, God forbid. He'll abuse her. And the job of man is to be around a beautiful woman and to be able to hold yourself back. And so the greatest test of holding back has to do with the sperm. And it says, in the Torah that one who can, hold back his sperm, who can control his sexuality, this is a righteous person. Everything else is, maybe yes, maybe not. But a person can do that. This is a righteous person. So it says Yosef Hatzadik. They always call him Hatzadik, it means the righteous, because he was very righteous with his sexuality, that he was with Potiphar's wife. It's a whole story. He was sent down, he was sold by his brothers to Egypt, bought by Potiphar, put ahead of the husband, but the guy's wife kept making eyes at him. He was very handsome. And one day, the husband was away, and she sent all the servants away, and she said, this is prophetic. This is from God. We got to have sex. And it says that he wanted her so bad that semen was pushing out beneath his fingernails. And he didn't do it. She grabbed onto his cloak or whatever, his shirt, and he ran out and left the shirt, which got him, left the evidence, ended up in jail. But to that degree of holding back. And also during sex, that's a man's job during sex, is to hold back. That the woman is not there to satisfy the man is there to satisfy the woman. Why? Because women take more time. It's not as easy thing for a woman as it is for a man. And the more pleasure there is in sex, and the more pleasure that a woman has, then the greater things are born out of that, whether it's a child or whether it's just, inspiration, happiness. Sex is, it's like no other thing. And it's one of the reasons why when people have sex, they often ubiquitously everywhere cry out God's name. Oh my God. Why? Because God is like nothing in the world. God's not physical or spiritual. So when we have sex, and it's like nothing really is beyond physical. It's beyond anything spiritual that we've experienced. And the only thing like that is God. There's another reason also. That man in Hebrew is called Ish. And woman in Hebrew is called Isha. They both have in common the Aleph Shin, which makes Ish, fire. But man has the Yud and woman has the Hey. And when you put them together, it makes Yah, God's name. So when man and woman come together, it makes God's name. And spontaneously people say, oh my God. And God is completely cool with any sexual action that people have. I mean, other than forcing someone to do something they don't want, but as far as like, whatever you want to do sexually is cool with God. Except for masturbation. Well, masturbation is not really something you do, you do that when you don't have someone to have sex with. When you have someone to have sex with, the whole idea of sex is really to get the sperm inside of the person. And so people who don't, whether that's masturbation or there's a term for where people don't, when you get to the point of climax, then the man pulls out and does it somewhere else. It's outside the woman. So this is not like, that's not a complete sexual act. It's a sexual act, but it's not, the whole thing wasn't completed. Now the difference is this big difference, like, the sperm, which a man creates through looking at women, it is very different from the woman who is born with all the cells that could be babies. She'll never make another one. She's born with them all. And month by month, they go out and, they get impregnated or they don't. And the woman has a period and it flushes that out. And there's a new cycle, a woman's cycles. A man, he's just always on. We're the line, she's the circle. Together they make the spiral. Very nice. But for a man to be a good lover, he has to be able to hold himself back. And so, we all know, it's a common knowledge these days. It's in the news. For years, the sperm count in man has been going down. And if it keeps going like this, we are going to be a sterile human race and we will die. So we're polluting our land, we're polluting our oceans, we're polluting the air, and we're even polluting outer space. And why are we doing it? Because we want more, excess, progress. We just want more. And more is what is killing us. And so the same thing in sex, that a man, and if you take the word autumn, which means man, and you turn the letters around, you can make ma'od, which means more. So man always wants more. Woman's not really like that. Man is the one who wants more. And so if man is living that out in the world, and he's going up into outer space, he just wants money, gold money, gets thrown up into outer space, a big masturbation, see. And when a person like that, when he has sex, he's just going to want more and more. He's not really going to care about the woman, whether she's having pleasure. And then I've met people like this. After that, they're having more and more sex, and after that, they go and masturbate. And they think that they're virile. This is a sign of virility, but this is not a sign of virility. It's really a sign of weakness, that a man cannot hold himself back from wanting more to give a woman more. And that's the key to sex. And this is known as Tantra. An Indian name. The Indians are very famous for their Kama Sutra, and they have a whole temple with all the different, they have like figurines of all the different ways to have sex. And they, they're very, open about. There's no stigma there. But the truth is that all that came from the Vedas, and the Vedas came from Abraham. He had 6 children at the end of his life, sent them off to the east with a language without a written form. And that's how you get the Indo-European language, because Abraham was the father of Arabic and Hebrew, and then Sanskrit. And so this all comes from Abraham. And since Abraham originally, in the Tower of Babel, after the Tower of Babel, what happened, the people, because it was God thought it was such a great thing that the people had all come together and be able to build this tower, even they were doing it to make war on God. And they built it on Mars. So God broke the tower and caused the people there to lose their bodies. But they did not die, and they'll never die, and they make a lot of trouble for us. And they're still there. See, I don't think we're going to find them, but they're, it's a whole thing. And so it says when Avram came into this world, so one of the first things he does is says, "Sorry, let's go down to Mitzrayim. Let's check it out." That's his wife, And so he says, they're gonna flip over you. She's so beautiful, because these were like really ephemeral people, and she was like just a light woman. They said she died, I think, at 127, and it says that she was at 100. She was as pure as 20 and as beautiful as 7. And but they went with angels, and they could so he had this whole plan, see, that they would see Sarah and take her to the king, and the king would give him lots of riches, which is what happened. But then when we tried to get close to Sarah would command the angels, hit them, and they all got like this leprosy around their genitals and understood that this was another man's wife. And a guy called Abraham in and said, "Take everything, go, get out of our country." And but nonetheless, Abraham and Sarah had a hard time having sex. It says that Abraham could only really just embrace her, and that's why he had to take another wife who was a princess of Egypt. They came over with her, Hagar. So and she was like trying to teach Sarah how to have sex. It says in the next generation, Yitzchak, that he said that he could something else. I don't remember. But only Yaakov, the third generation, says he was good in bed. He had 4 wives, 12 kids. So it was really hard for these very ephemeral people to come down and to have physical sex. And so the teaching of sex, and there's a lot of sex in the Torah. It's a very open thing. It's a very important part of life. And that and so the tantric, that's it, is tantric really, it comes from this basic information from Abraham that to be in control of one's sexuality for man. And it says that originally his name was Avram, which means Av means father, Ram means high, the high father. He was so high he couldn't have children. So God gave Abraham a hey, which is a feminine letter, and took away from Sarai the yud, which is a masculine letter, and with a 10, and gave them each a hey, which together is 10. It has to be made equal. And in that way, Abraham could have children. And it says up until then, Abraham had complete control over his body, except for 5 limbs, which is the hay is 5, and he got them with the hay, which are the 2 eyes, the 2 ears, and the penis. And Abraham couldn't help himself from looking at this or hearing this or reacting to a beautiful woman. And with the hay, he had the strength that he could react. And the way that a man holds himself back is one with his mind, since the mind is what excites the penis, the sexuality, as it says that there's no erection without knowing. If the third eye is so unable, is so inactivated, like a person gets really drunk. So if you get drunk, that's what it affects. It affects the third eye, the cerebellum in the back of the head. And that's why a person says, I can drive, but doesn't know it. It affects what the person knows. So without that, a man can't have an erection, and then you can't have sex. So the whole thing is really about a man's mind to be able to control the mind to think about something else. And this is very important while having sex, because a man shouldn't be thinking about another woman while he's having sex. Spiritually, this is not a good thing to happen. And also that the essence of man, is will. And will is depicted as a line. I want this. A woman is pleasure, which is depicted of a circle, that when the more pleasure is, the bigger the circle is. There was this guy in the Talmud, and he and his wife, they were very fat. And so the Roman women used to say about them that their children aren't their own. They're so fat they couldn't have sex. So the rabbi, fearing that people might think there was something wrong with his children, so he answered them and he said, where there's love, the flesh makes way. Even though there's a lot of fat, but the love, that'll get there. These are really, really important things. And so but the essence of man is will, and it's through a man's will that he holds himself back. So men who masturbate, they're not building their will up. They don't have any will. They feel as though I go masturbate. And it's really bad for men, because it weakens the strength of the man. So that when a man is having sex, he can't hold himself back, and he wants to. He likes this woman or whatever, and he wants to, be a good lover, and he can't, because he's a weak man. It's not about how much you can masturbate or how far your sperm can go, but it's about how much the man can hold himself back. And a man who holds himself back sexually, like during sex, or if he feels sexual and holds himself back and doesn't masturbate, what happens is he builds up this energy, and women, they react to that. Well, this is a virile man, because he has that energy and he can hold it. And a woman doesn't know why, but he's attracted to a particular man. So, and also the idea, it doesn't even just, it's not from the head. I mean, obviously, you're not going to get all the genes you need from your balls. I mean, it's just the lower part of the body, that ain't going to do it. As far as, women, it's different, because they were, they're created with all. It's a whole different trip with a woman. But with a man, this stuff comes from his head. That's how the DNA gets in there. But the head can't do it by itself. That our eyes are very connected to our soul, because our eyes are connected to the right side of the brain, and the right side of the brain is where the cord from the soul is engraved out of a star, and connects to us through this cord of light, comes into the right side of the brain. And when we see a woman, that spiritual light also gets affected, because it wants to come into the world. It's sort of lightning, and it wants to come into this world, but it doesn't just want to come into this world and end up on the ground, just get nullified. That's what lightning does. It draws to the ground, but you want it rather to go into another person and really have something spiritual happen. And that's what the soul wants. So the soul gets all excited, the brain gets all excited, and then it's up to the man to look out into the world and see, is this right? Maybe I'm looking at another man's wife, or someone's girlfriend, or someone that's younger, God forbid, a child, or all sorts of things that are things that can excite the flesh. The flesh doesn't have any morality, and the person is there to step in and say, "Don't look at that. Turn away from that. Don't be, And, a person can be very pure about his vision. We're all, we're not on that level, and we don't really have to be. God's not asking us to be. That's not asking us. not to look. God's asking us not to respond. And so if we're having a problem not responding, then we shouldn't look. So there's kind of this joke, a few hundred years ago. So like Russia or something. So this guy's asking this other guy, you work in the marketplace. How do you do it? There's all these beautiful women and people walking around with not much clothes on. And how are you able to do it? So the guy says, one eye I keep closed altogether. And the other eye I just squint, keep it almost closed. Meaning he really looks. He doesn't just look, he really looks. And that's fine, we can look, but we can't respond. And if a man can't look and not respond, then he shouldn't look. And if a man cannot have pure thoughts and then not have to go masturbate, you shouldn't have these things, you shouldn't be thinking like that. And you have to build up that strength. The thing of man is to be strong, and the strongest man is strong because of his will. He's not strong because of his muscle. That's a very, just kind of the word I want, but just, it's a very external kind of thing, and it doesn't really go for so far. And the real strength of man is his capacity to be able to think in a very directed way. That's why women are better at multitasking, because man gets focused into one thing and his will gets really activated, and that's what he does. So oftentimes a man can want a woman so bad he doesn't see all the bad things in her. He just wants her. And women take advantage of that, and they're allowed to, no problem. So anyways, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about this kind of tantric sex, which is really the right type of sex. And it's not just, from India. This really comes from Abraham, who the whole thing was, how do these three generations finally get to the point where they could be, 12 tribes? Abraham had two children, Yitzchak and Ishmael. Ishmael is the father of the Arabs, and he just immediately had 12 tribes. And the reason is his mother was from Egypt. She was a regular human being and had a child, and he went out and he was a very virile child, and he had all these women and had 12 tribes. Esau became one of the third. He also had 12 tribes, along with Yaakov had 12 tribes. But Yitzchak couldn't do it. He was just too sensitive a person, and it's interesting. So he had kind of a different scenario, that he married his wife when she was 3, so they couldn't have sex for like 10 years. So he got to really know her really well, and then after 20 years they didn't have a child. So they prayed to God, and God did a miracle. But Yaakov didn't need any miracles. He was good in bed. So that's there's so much to say about sex. I figure I'll just take the whole week and talk about sex. And this is the week in Sfiras HaOmer. Today is I think the word should be Yesod, and the strength of Yesod, of the foundation. And foundation is it's like an iceberg. A little bit of it you see, but most of it is underground. And every person has this, and that, and so it comes out in the sex, because the sex is what is nakedness. We're going to be embarrassed. That's what we're going to be embarrassed by, and because there's something about this innately secret, and only the human being feels this sense of secrecy. Animals don't have this. And this embarrassment that we feel in this world is only amplified many times when we go to heaven and we experience real nakedness, when we don't have a body. Then we get really embarrassed. So do good, be good, think good, and go for the good. The past is really gone. We're going into a new time. And I'm writing about this in my books. My latest book, Sex, A Metaphor to History. I haven't sold a book in months, so please go to my website, dovidhouse.com. Buy a book. These are far out books. I'm coming out with another one in July about the Zohar. And meantime, I'm happy to share the knowledge. No one has been writing in or asking questions, but I'm sure people have a lot of questions about sexuality. So there goes my 30 minutes. Say hi. Bye.